Tonight, as I'm watching videos, trying to spend the night cozily as usual, I couldn't help but keep noticing a low negative humming of a feeling underneath my experience. If I pay any attention to it, I'd immediately recognize what it is. It is this low but constant hum of self-disdain. It is unverbalized. It's not even an actual distinct emotion, but just this low but consistent undertone feeling in the background, underneath everything. Like a pair of eyes in a corner of the room watching me, observing me in disdain or mild disgust. It feels like a background, dull-colored carpet underneath all pieces of furniture of my experience. A carpet of despise, emanating disdain. If I look at it a bit closer, I'd discover that this is the exact same disdain shared and emanated whenever I think of someone else I don't appreciate. Which gives me great relief, as it makes me realize that the very existence of this disdain isn't just towards me personally alone. It feels surreal. It makes me feel unworthy. Not in a way that I can do something or work somehow to become worthy one day, but in a way that feels like the unworthiness is deep in me, and so no matter what I do, will never change a thing about it. Like I'm ugly by nature, therefore I despise myself. This unverbalized sense of criticism comes from a subconscious third person's point of view. That is, whenever you unknowingly look at yourself from a third person's perspective instead of from an authentic experiencer's point of view. An authentic experiencer's perspective is you going through your life experiences as you, experiencing everything from first person's perspective, which is obviously naturally authentic. And from this perspective, you can't possibly judge yourself, because you would understand yourself fully and completely because you live as you and experience your whole life every millisecond as you. So you naturally understand everything about you through you, every choice you make. And there is no room for judgments from this perspective. All of your judgments come from a made-up third person's perspective, which you would unknowingly look at yourself through. All judgments are inauthentic because they come from the lack of authentic understanding, which is the recognition that every single person always lives their own life from a unique, authentic, first person's perspective. And the entirety of the experience is absolutely, naturally authentic. Well, this is very easy to understand, even though it might sound a bit complex when you verbalize it. It's just you living your life, day-to-day life. Not day-to-day, but every single second of your life, you live it as you, and you experience it as you. You can see your thoughts, you experience them, and your emotions, and you walk into a situation and your whole reactions, everything you experience as you. And this whole experience itself is obviously, self-evidently authentic, right? You walk into a situation and you naturally have all the reactions that you have. They're absolutely, without exception, authentic. It's self-evident. All right, we don't have to spend any more time explaining this. So, a third person's perspective always comes from a place of lack of true understanding. Because, like we said, for a person living their life, making their choices, all the choices they make are naturally authentic. Like you walk into a situation, you have these reactions, and as a result of those reactions, you make choices. It's all authentic to you. Even if I give you an example, even when you make the decision to not be authentic in a situation, for example, you meet someone, you put up a face, you wear a mask, you hide yourself, you try to become someone else, you make the choice of being inauthentic in a situation. This choice itself is still authentic because facing this situation, you have these reactions, you go through certain emotions, beliefs, or thoughts, and all of this is obviously self-evidently authentic. And as a result of experiencing all the thoughts, beliefs, or emotions you have when facing a situation or somebody, you decide from there, you make the choice to be inauthentic in a situation. So all the choices you make, they are authentic. They all come from the direct and unique life experiences that you're having at the moment of making all the choices you make. But a third person's perspective would say, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have made that choice. You shouldn't have felt that way. You should do this instead. You shouldn't think that way. You should. These shoulds and shouldn'ts. Can you see what they're doing? Can you see where they're coming from? They entirely come from a place that is ignorant of the fact that the existence, that another person's life experience is unique to themselves and is experienced authentically. Like you have certain reactions in a situation you did not choose. There's no space between you and your reactions. When you hear somebody say something, you feel angry. You did not choose to feel anger. If we could choose, we would always choose to feel happiness. Nobody would choose to feel a negative emotion. So they're all self-evidently authentic. So someone says something and then it makes you feel angry. And then as a result of that, you punch that person. And then a third person comes and look at you and says, you shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't. Or they would even say, you shouldn't have felt angry. If you could have chosen, you would have chosen not to feel angry, obviously. So this third person's perspective, all the judgments come from a third person's perspective. No matter they actually come from a third person or not, it could come just from you. You can look at yourself from a third person's perspective, which is the center of this video. You look at you from a third person's perspective and say to you, you shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have felt angry. You shouldn't. All these shoulds, shouldn'ts, they come not from your authentic self. Because your authentic self automatically, spontaneously, self-evidently, obviously would have complete understanding of you, because you go through your life, moment by moment. As you understand everything. Which says, your way is wrong, my way is right. When you look at someone and you say, you shouldn't have done it, you shouldn't have killed that person, you should do this instead, you should be kinder, you should be a kind person, blah, 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 blah. All these shoulds, shouldn'ts, basically saying, your way is wrong, my way is right. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't have killed that person. If I was you, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done something else. But the thing is, you are not them. You are you. And then the same thing you do to yourself. After making a decision, you look back at yourself and you say, you shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. You would say, I shouldn't have done it. But you're speaking to yourself from a third person's perspective. Because if you look at you when making that decision, you look at you the moment of making that decision, you leave that third person's perspective. You come back to you at the moment of making that decision. You would absolutely understand exactly why you would make those decisions, because you lived it. All those emotions that happened, all those thoughts and feelings that went through you at the moment of making that decision, you have lived through it all. So obviously you would absolutely understand why you have made that decision. And from that first person's perspective, there is no room for judgment. Because you naturally understand yourself, and it's authentic understanding. That's why I have always said, if you could live someone else's, like, let's say a murderer, if you had lived that murderer's life from birth till the moment they killed someone, you have lived their life every single millisecond of it. You have lived their life as them. You have experienced every single emotion, every single thought, every single life situation they have ever experienced. You would understand them. Now, why you have lived as you and you still judge you is because growing up, we are not alone in the world. Growing up, we grow up in communities. We're surrounded by third person's perspectives. Everybody looks at us from a third person's perspective, even your closest people. So you just we have internalized a third person's perspective in us, and it has become unconscious. It has become subconscious. It's you naturally, like, without knowing it, without noticing it, you naturally look at yourself from a third person's perspective. And that is how you leave you. You leave your first person's perspective and you stand from a third person's perspective and you watch you from a distance. That's where all the judgments come, because judgments themselves are always the lack of understanding, because understanding naturally dissolves judgments. Why? Judgments is when you don't understand someone and you try to apply your life experience You try to overwrite their experience with yours. That's why you say you shouldn't. The word should, can you hear it? The word should says, I don't care. I don't know what you have lived through, and I don't care because I don't know. I'm ignorant, and I don't know that I am ignorant. I look at this situation, I tell you what I should have done or what should be done, not necessarily what I should have done, but what should be done instead, according to what my life experience, what I have been told, or what I actually would do. I completely ignore you as you having lived as your life experience. I don't know. I don't even know that I don't know. I just look at that. I look at what you've done in that situation. And then I come from my place. Your place is just non-existent to me. That's where all the judgments came from. Awe. That is why I say I have come to understand that love is nothing but understanding. When you understand someone, like, I'm not talking about intellectual understanding, not that you analyze someone in a way to understand them intellectually, step by step, logically, why they would make that decision because this had happened to them. Like analyzing again, it's still like from a third person's perspective. Can you see? If you look at a person, you don't necessarily have to live as them. You look at them and then you recognize that they have lived their life the way you have. And you have no idea. You recognize this, that you have no idea what they have gone through. You can never guess. You can never look at them. Okay, I know what they have gone through. They have had this childhood trauma, blah, blah, blah. I also have had this childhood trauma. But in this specific situation, I wouldn't make the choices they've made. Again, you are not coming from them. You, again, coming from yourself, from a third person's perspective. You have no idea what they have gone through. If they had gone through everything exactly what you have gone through, they would have become you. They would have made the choices the exact same way you would. The reason why they haven't, because they are their own person. And this is not the focus of our video today. Our focus today is on you. Why you would beat yourself up. Why I want you to remember whenever you hear self-criticism, like I said in the beginning of the video, it doesn't even, sometimes when it's chronic, it doesn't even have to be a verbalized thought that actually says you shouldn't have this, or you're a bad person, or you're this and that. It would just be a feeling that's very ambiguous or vague, abstract. It's just there, like in the background, like a background negativity. You look at it, if you are self-aware, and I think if you're drawn to this video, you are absolutely self-aware enough to notice when it's there. And just remember, whenever you notice this self-criticism, verbalized or not, it's always coming from a place of ignorance. So whatever it says about you or another person is always absolutely the opposite of truth. And having watched this video to this point, you absolutely have understood my point. I will tirelessly keep talking about this until the day I die, until the day I feel I have fully spread the message. Why do you always notice it whenever you look at you from a third person's perspective. And one thing is that it doesn't always have to be it won't always be negative. Like this third person's perspective, sometimes it approves what you do. When you do something, of course, the same way you look at someone else, you don't judge everybody negatively. Sometimes you judge them positively. When you like approve someone, it's still from like a third person's perspective, you see? So the approval or disapproval, judgments or praises, compliments, all of them are of the same nature. All of them are not authentic, because in the world there is only one thing that is authentic, that is understanding, which is what love is. True love, understanding. Authentic understanding. You recognize that another person is their own person. You recognize that you have lived your life. You recognize that all of the emotions you experience, you come back to your first person's perspective. You leave the seat of that third person's perspective. You walk back into yourself. You look at the situation from, again, your first person's perspective, and all of a sudden you have spontaneous understanding. Because you have lived, again, every single emotion, every single reaction, every single thing through you, and you can see how they are always authentic because they arise in you. You did not choose them. If you could choose, just remind yourself, if you did have a choice, you would always choose love. You would always choose joy. You would always choose happiness. You would always choose well-being. You would never choose violence. If you really had a choice, you would never choose to feel anger. You would never choose to feel disagreement. I mean, it's not a feeling. All right, forget about that. You would never feel discomfort in you. You would always choose ease, love, joy. You would always choose positivity. And all of these reactions, emotional reactions, thoughts, or beliefs that go through your mind in a specific situation, all of these thoughts, emotions, they have roots because you have lived your life, and your life, the unfolding of it, all the situations included in it that have happened, they have conditioned you in a way, they have put seeds in you that became beliefs, certain beliefs that you have. For example, the belief that your face is ugly because you're convinced by the world that a certain type of face is pretty, and so yours is not. Or your body is ugly, or this is not right, or a specific thing should be done in a specific situation. All of these shoulds, again, shoulds. You should look that way. That would be beautiful. You should do this thing in this specific situation. You should. Again, all of these, again, and again, they are all from, repeat, you already know what I'm going to say, a third person's perspective. And it's always not from truth. Next time you hear a judgment in you, I know it feels real because I shared with you, it feels real. It feels solid. It feels as if it's the only truth. As if the self-disgust is the truth of you, that you deserve this. Because you just have this, you just are ugly as a person. That is because of how convinced you are of the beliefs that you have in your head. That a certain type of person is beautiful, or a certain type of face, a body is beautiful. And if yours doesn't match, if you don't match with some moral standards or whatever expectations, whatever a third person's standard, you're foul. Next time, I want you to remember this. You can come back to this video next time you hear what I have heard. This low humming tone of self-disgust or self-disdain. That is the chronic subconscious third person's perspective that we look at ourselves through. What you can do, you take a breath and you leave that seat and you walk back in to your first person's perspective, and you feel from there, you feel, what am I feeling? And you feel them authentically, like anger. But I understand, as long as you feel something negative, you immediately jump out and judge. I shouldn't feel anger right now because I'm cozy in bed right now. I shouldn't feel anger. It's ruining my night. I shouldn't. When you hear these shouldn'ts, it means whenever you make a negative comment about yourself, it doesn't have to contain the words should or shouldn't. Whenever you make a negative comment about yourself, it's always when you've jumped out of your authentic self, your authentic first person's perspective, where you know naturally, you just observe, you all already know that you do not choose to feel angry. If you could choose, again, if you could choose, you would always choose to feel love, joy, happiness, peace. You would always choose peace. You wouldn't choose fear, you wouldn't choose worry, you wouldn't choose any of all of that bullshit that you judge yourself for. You wouldn't choose to judge you. And so don't beat yourself up when you judge yourself. And when you catch yourself judging yourself, and you say, I shouldn't judge myself because it's bad. You just recognize that the self-judgment is more like a reminder to tell you to now, I need to jump back into my authentic seat of me, experiencing everything as me, with my perfect innocence. Because if I could choose, I would always choose love, joy, peace, light, warmth, comfort, ease, freedom. I would never choose anger. I would never choose depression. I would never choose anything less than love. And you, from there, when you can do that, you naturally would understand or would realize that it is the exact same for everyone else. If they could choose, they would choose to feel the exact things that you do. That you would. And then you might ask the question, I don't know, why would some people go and watch horror movies? Then why do some people go and watch a sad movie? Why don't everybody choose to watch a happy movie instead? Like I said, you have not lived their life. You don't know what it's like to be them. And you must recognize this. But forget about other people. First of all, you come from you first. You come to you first. You gotta settle this with you first. I mean, it's not like a settlement. It's not something to deal with. It's not a problem to solve. It's more like a coming home. Because of the greatest gift that you would experience out of this, out of self-love. The only thing that you have lacked, you've not lacked anyone else's love. The love that you've missed is your own. Well, you've not missed it. Why? Because I said you You always have this for you, because you always have the entirety of your complete understanding of you, because you have lived your life, every single millisecond of it, from the beginning of your life till this moment. You have experienced every single emotion, every single thought, everything as you. You have always within you, always available, the entirety of complete understanding of yourself. And it is not an intellectual level of understanding. It is a authentic understanding. And you know it. You already know it because you have it. You understand. You know what I'm talking about. Oh God, I really hope that you've watched to this point. When you love yourself, which means when you always come from a place of understanding, that is always available in you. When you can do that, you naturally do it for everybody else. Because from there, you understand everyone. Naturally. From there, you can no longer judge anyone else anymore. But just forget about other people here. Forget about them for now. Because it will come naturally to you. You never have to make an effort to do it for other people. If you could do it for yourself, like if you fill yourself with love, it overflows to other people. Love is effortless. You never have to push yourself to forgive that person. Forgiveness comes naturally from understanding. Love is effortless. It flows when you fill yourself with this love that you already have for you, because love is understanding. And you already have, like we have said repeatedly, the entirety of complete self-understanding of you. You already have, because you have lived as you. Nobody knows you better than you do. You understand yourself deeply. Just walk yourself out of that seat of the third person's perspective. You walk back to yourself. You leave that third person. Whenever it shows up, it's a reminder that now, come back, come home. Come to yourself. Come to myself. Now I need to come back to myself, and from myself, I don't look at myself. From yourself, you don't look at yourself. Or yes, you can look at yourself. All you can see is understanding the depth of you. And you can't possibly see anything else. Whenever you can see anything less than love, it is when you are partially still remaining in that third person's perspective, and then you have a look at what it is. You walk out of it again, and then you come from yourself. And it will get easier and easier, because it is of our nature. Because it is our most authentic way of being, because we always live our lives always from a first person perspective, obviously. And from there, you can also understand why you would judge other people, or why other people judge other people. You suddenly would be able to understand everything. You suddenly wouldn't be able to judge anymore. But you don't have to worry about it. It will come naturally. You just have to focus on you. Because whenever you feel lonely, you feel alone, you feel you really need someone else. It's really, you need you. The seat of you have left it empty because you always stay in the seat of this third person's perspective. So you feel lonely, you feel empty inside, which is natural. Obviously, just walk back in. Come back, come home. Come from you again. And then maybe all of a sudden you feel full. Suddenly you feel full. And I bless you. From the bottom of my humanity, I bless the entirety of yours. And it is a joyous process. Joyous. Coming home is joyous. Loving is joyous. And we all will arrive there eventually. Thank you for watching.